What's up, YouTube? Today I want to talk about the really cool comb filters in Minimal Audio's new current synthesizer. So let's just dive in and have a look. So today I want to show you how to take pretty atonal sounds and use the effects in Minimal Audio's current to create a kind of like resonator. We can do some various interesting kind of more advanced techniques after that, but I just want to show you the basics to get started. So I guess the best way to outline something like this will be on a sampler. So let's dive to the sampler window over here. And let's just load up something like a very simple percussion sound. So what we can do is we can even drag this along here just so that we have a very short pluck of the sound, and we can turn the fade up like this. So all we're doing is we're really just creating a pluck which is going to excite the comb filters, which will then resonate at a particular frequency. So yeah, let's jump into the effects, and over here we can go and add a hybrid filter, and then we can go to the combs, and let's just start with the comb pause. So we're going to want to click tune over here. And so what this does is basically going to allow you to tune the frequency over here to specific pitches. So you'll notice when you go down to like the lower frequencies, the comb filter is actually made up of a delay. If we turn up the resonance, that would be essentially the feedback of the delay circuit. So when we turn down the frequency over here, you can actually hear the delay tails. So that's like the basis of creating a resonator inside current. How do we get it to resonate to particular frequencies though? What we're going to want to do is just double click this, and then we can use this key, drag this over here, and we're going to want to just turn this up to 100%. So now what we want to do is we want to turn this frequency all the way down to C-2, and just to confirm, we can go all the way up here. And okay, it's going to G8. I wonder if that's correct tunings. It sounds about right. We can pull up a tuner just to make sure. So here, if we turn this dry down, you'll hear we're back to that original percussion sound. So notice as we change the note that's being played, you get these kind of different textures from the sampler. You can potentially turn tuning to fixed and then set the fixed note if you don't want that, if you want it to be a static sound as you do the comb filter. I kind of like the weird differences that it creates though with those different pitches on the sample, but sometimes you want it a little bit more static. So depending on how much of the sample you actually want to hear, you would use this dry wet to kind of mix it in. If you want a more synthy sound, you can go full wet. If you want a kind of more percussive sound, you can go kind of anywhere in the middle. Sometimes you just want to create a bit of extra kind of tone on a snare or something like that, and this can be a pretty cool technique to do that. But I want to create a more obscure synth sound with this. We can actually even create a pad out of just a pluck sound like this using this technique. If you want to get some interesting interplay between the stereo, you can use the spread. So what that's going to do is it's going to tune the left and the right differently. So if you want a more melodic sound, you may not want to do this. But if you want a more chaotic sound, it could sound good. So remember, like I said, in the context of just trying to add a little bit of extra kind of tone to a snare or something, this can be really useful. But sometimes it's a little bit too noisy. Okay, so we can cycle through these different comb filters to give us different sounds. Comb negative is more of a kind of square wave. Comb positive is more of a saw wave. And we can get opposing harmonics by reversing the resonance into the negative. That one's kind of nice. It's got this kind of almost hollow sound to it. Almost like a woody texture. So we can use this as a basis for a sound. So let's get a little bit more experimental. I want to talk about how we can take this resonator and create a kind of more of a modal resonator type of effect. It's not true modal because we're not resonating each of the partials, but we can kind of simulate something similar to that by just boosting certain overtones in the frequency range. So like, for example, using Morph EQ, we could say like remove some of these harmonics, boost some of these harmonics. But what we can then do is we can shift it depending on the key. So for example, we can key track this shift parameter over here. So now, essentially what we're doing is we're creating like a key-tracked EQ, and we're choosing which of these harmonics will be present. So essentially, we're modeling the tone of different resonant characteristics. What we could also do, because Morph EQ obviously has this capabilities to morph, we could take each of these, let's call them partials, and change where they are in the spectrum, essentially creating different models, and then use this morph parameter to basically morph between those. So we can get something that's more hollow, or something that's more plucky. And furthermore, we can actually get it to be a little bit more apparent by changing these to band passes and getting them to, setting them to parallel mode instead of series mode. Okay, so let's add some distortion over here. Oh, that sounds great. Okay, let's put some chorus on here. With this chorus, I like to turn the modulation down so it's static. Give it some feedback, so you're kind of creating a little bit of almost reverb with it. And then we can put some other reverb on here. So with this one, I like to turn this balance to the right, because then it balances towards the late reflections, and that just gives you a larger sound. I like to low pass the input a little bit, just so it's not so bright. So one thing I also like to do is just before this reverb, let's try something a little bit experimental with something like one of these rhythmic cluster delay presets. These can often just add a little bit of glitchy texture into the mix. It's almost like a panpipe kind of texture now. So that for those who actually saw my video on the Vitals comb filters, this is a very similar technique, although these effects allow us to push it way to the next level. What I quickly just want to do here is assign some macros to this morph so we can quickly get some different tones. It's almost like very organic, marimba-like, almost like panpipe. So the real magic comes in playing with the envelopes of the sound. So here, for example, we could either turn this level down and add our own custom envelope in over here, like this. So now we can give it some attack, some curve, because this is now going to give us more of a wind-like sound if we do something like this. How sick is that? Let's give it some extra, more kind of traditional delay. Say 1/4 dotted before that big reverb. Scatter, give it a ping pong effect. Okay, so let me show you something truly magical, which is actually something that I used to do with modular, mostly in VCV Rack because I don't actually have the real modules. But there's a bit of a kind of trope in modular, the whole rings into clouds thing. And so I figured out something, if you actually do it the other way around, clouds into rings, you can get some really weird pads and textures. So the whole idea is that rings is a resonator, clouds is a granular synth. So we can kind of get a very similar approach here where we can use the granular to trigger a sound and then use the resonator to resonate that sound. And because we can kind of cut up the sound and do all sorts of weird morphing and tape-like motions to the sound, we can get these really different kind of sounds rather than just that pluck that's exciting the resonator. Does that make sense? So here, let's enable the granular, and I'm just going to load up a couple of random stuff here. We can kind of go in and fine-tune it a little bit. But already, straight off the bat, just any sound in the granular through this resonator should just create something pretty decent as a pad. But I like to mess with this shape over here, because then what you're doing is you're basically getting it to like pluck, so to speak, with this envelope. And so then you can control that pluck rate with the grain size. So you can get these weird things that which are kind of like pads, but also kind of percussive. Really cool sound design technique, this one. So let's actually go ahead and turn off some of these effects. I want to turn off the comb filter as well. Okay, so notice how we have these almost like little plucky grains happening here. What I want to do is I want to find something that's a little bit more textural. I think the sound is it's already like a pad. So let's find something that's got a lot more dynamics. Oh, there we go. Perfect. Ah, that sounds great. Okay, so remember now, we don't have this resonator actually being applied. That sound we were hearing was purely just the grain oscillator. So let's hear what happens when we start to resonate it to the pitch of the incoming key. Okay, wait, let's turn off some of this distortion, because now we're going to have a lot more harmonics. I think the distortion is going to be a bit too much. What we can also do is we can set up a chord and set up strum. So it kind of like strums through the chords. Damn, that is sick. Yeah, I think that's about it. I'm going to be uploading this preset, actually both variations, the granular and the sampler, to my Patreon for all my $5 supporters. So if you want to know what that's all about, check out the link in the description. And thanks for watching. If you liked the video, hit the like button. If you haven't yet, subscribe to my channel, please. And yeah, I'll see you guys next time. Cheers.